Hey everyone, it is Bridget here from Bridget's Healthy Kitchen, wishing you a wonderful day wherever you are in the world and whatever it is that you may be doing. I hope you're well and I hope you are safe. Thank you for joining me on this episode of our Pub Classics, and tonight we are doing what is hands down probably one of the most well-known, if not the most well-ordered dishes when it comes to pub classic, and that is steak and chips. And not just any chips, by the way. Yes, I'm going to be teaching you guys how you can eat potato. Seriously, we gotta watch this video. I'm going to teach you guys how you can eat potato and how we can make sure that it's going to be the healthiest potato that you've ever had. I am quite 100% serious. I'm teaching you a recipe tonight on how to eat potatoes in a healthy way. Stay tuned for that. I'm also going to be teaching you what, in my humble opinion, is the hands down #1 hack to creating the most tender and flavorsome steak you have ever had in your life. In fact, I want you to forget everything you have ever heard about how to cook the perfect steak. This is a life-changing hack. I'm serious. Ask Mahei, he thinks it's so brilliant. Ask our kids. This little tip is going to change how you shop for steak or meat and how you prepare it, and of course then how you cook it. And it's so simple that you can do it with your eyes closed. Well, you don't really want to close your eyes, but you could if you really wanted to. So two really cool things we're going to be talking about today. So, you know, when it comes to steak and chips, we don't tend to think of that as healthy. We tend to think of that as a bit of a treat, and yes, it is still a bit of a treat because, you know, we are still thinking about making sure we get as many good quality leafy greens into our diet and really good quality lean protein. But this is one of those treat foods that you can have, and you can have it guilt-free. Now that I'm going to show you how to do it. So the first thing we're going to discuss in tonight's class is we're going to go through the steak first, because that's really, really important to a good steak and chips, right? And then we're going to do the potato portion as well. So come on down to my bench. I want to show you guys what's going on down here. So, well, nothing at the moment because it's over here. So what I have in my plate here, I have a couple of pieces of rump. And for a lot of people, they think rump is cheap and it's nasty. You might not even want to put it through a casserole or whatever. But you know what? This little trick that I'm showing you guys now means that you can actually buy rump, and you can create a restaurant quality meal with a bit of rump. So the first thing you might notice about my rump is I always make sure to have some fat marbling on there, because it's good quality fat, obviously. Not too much, but you know, if you've got a bit of marbling through the actual meat, that's good too. Don't worry about that. So I've got a portion here. You want to aim for around about 100 to 125 grams per person. So I know we're used to eating, you know, in a steak meal, a really, really huge one. But once again, we don't want to go overboard with our protein, because protein can turn into sugars if we consume too much. It gets converted into glucose. So 100 grams to 125, which is about 3.5 ounces to 4 ounces, is for one person. So a little, you know, does tend to go a longish way when it comes to these types of portioning as well. Like I said, I'm choosing rump because this tip is going to mean that you could choose rump, you could choose porterhouse, you could choose sirloin, but there's nothing wrong with a good piece of rump. And I find that rump does have some pretty good flavor as well. I mean, my favorite steak is definitely a ribeye, but that's, you know, 3 times the price of a piece of rump. And when I'm feeding the family, I'm probably going to go for a cut that's a little bit more economical. So I've got a rump, 2 pieces there. And the first thing you want to do when you get your meat home from the supermarket or from the butcher is, if it's in plastic, you need to remove the plastic straight away. If it's in one of those styrofoam, trays, get rid of it. That is not going to do your steak any favors whatsoever. And what you actually want to do is you want to take up some baking paper. If you're getting it from the butcher here, they actually might put it in butcher's paper, which is great. But you want to take up a piece of paper, and you want to lay your steak down on that piece of paper, just like that. And this is the trick. Where is it? Oh, here it is, right in front of me. Couldn't see it for looking. This is the hack that is going to change, like, I'm serious, it's going to change so many wonderful things for you. So what you want to do is take up a really good quality salt. I'm using a beautiful French fleur de sel salt. You don't have to go quite that fancy, but a nice mineral salt. These types of salts obviously taste a lot better, and they've got those trace minerals in them that are better for us. And what you want to do is you want to sprinkle some salt onto your steak. I know you're like, oh, I thought I've heard that you should never salt a steak while it's cooking. That's garbage. Don't listen to it. This is the hack that you need to get into as well, is pre-salting your steak. So don't forget, there's always two sides to every story, so a little bit of salt on that side as well. And then you're going to create a loose wrap with your paper, just like that. And this is where you have to be a little bit more organized when it comes to eating steak. And I do try with us as well, because I always look at something like this as a bit of a treat. You know, it's not something that we had as kids. Pretty much ever. I can't recall eating a piece of steak as a kid. Sausages and mince were the go. So I treat every single piece of steak that I get with great care and respect. So now that you have your little package and you do that with all your little pieces, you can pre-portion them to that sort of 100 to 125 gram size. You're going to leave this overnight or for at least 24 hours in the fridge. What is going to happen is that steak is going to begin to tenderize. That steak is going to begin to get the most incredible flavor. Please trust me on this. It is worth the wait. It's worth being that little bit organized. So you go into, plan ahead. You know, maybe it's for the weekend. You're going to have steak on the weekend. So you get your steak on even on a Thursday, and you're going to be eating it on a Saturday, and you salt it as soon as you get home. Take it out of that awful plastic, take it off that styrofoam, put it into your little package like this, bit of salt on either side, and that goes into the fridge. And if you can leave it for a minimum of 24, but if you can go for 48 hours, it will change your life. I'm telling you, I'm not overstating it. It is phenomenal. Now it comes to the point, because our son, he's a bit of a steak eater, you know, being 16 and all, quite likes his steak. And he will say, oh, Mum, really like a bit of steak. And he's like, oh no, we're going to wait 48 hours. Even he's used to it, because we have done a side-by-side comparison of what a steak fresh out of the butcher's or the supermarket tastes like, compared with one that you have done on salt for 24 and then 48 hours. Phenomenal. So there you go. That is like, literally, it's going to change your life. Please try it. Please be a little bit organized if you're thinking about having steak, and do that. And then of course that just goes into the fridge for that 24 minimum, ideally 48 hours. It is phenomenal. So that's what you want to do. But when you're ready, once the 48 hours is up or 24 hours is up, you want to take your steak out of the fridge and out of its paper, and just literally, I have left it, I've got a couple pieces here that have been on salt for about 30 odd hours. What you'll notice is you'll get a bit of a drying look to the outside of your meat, which is exactly what you want. Don't worry about it looking dry. It is going to be the most flavoursome, tasty steak you've ever had. Yes, I've got a question, Mahi.
Two questions.
Yes.
Is pink salt okay, and does the hack work for pork?
So the first question was, is pink salt all right? Yeah, pink salt, that's the Himalayan salt. That's absolutely fine. I always say, buy the best quality salt your money can buy. It will make all the difference in the flavor of your food. I'm not a fan of table salt. So, if you're using, there's also the lovely Murray River pink salt is amazing. There's some natural New Zealand salt that I know of that I've actually tobogganed down the salt hill. I think it's in Lake Glasmere, which is in the top half of New Zealand South Island. They've got a really nice hand harvested salt, but you choose the best quality salt your money can buy. I just absolutely do not suggest you use normal iodized table salt. That stuff is nasty. That stuff don't taste good, and all these other salts have these wonderful trace minerals which are better for our bodies. So if you are going to be adding sodium to our food, let's try and get the best quality, because you don't need much when you're doing a really good quality. So great question. The second question was, can the same be done with pork? Yes, it can. The good news is, no matter what meat you want to respect and treat with such dignity, bring it home from your shopping, take all the nasty plastic off, and do exactly the same thing. You can do it with a chicken, a whole chicken, sprinkle the outside of the chicken, and then wrap it in a bit of baking paper, pop it into your fridge for 24 to 48 hours. It's going to be phenomenal. And one of the things you'll notice, especially if you do it with a whole chicken, is the skin will get so crispy, so crispy. So I'm talking about pork, I'm talking about beef, I'm talking about chicken, I'm talking about turkey, I'm talking about lamb. Any of these meats really benefit from that being done on salt 24, 48 hours. You will not regret spending that little bit of time to get organized. All right, so that's our steak. So steak is now sitting at room temperature. So you want to take it out ideally about an hour before you cook it. I know there's not always that sort of time, but if you can take it out an hour before you cook it, it's just going to help it to come up to room temperature, and you're going to get an even cook out of it, because the last thing you want to do is put a cold steak into a hot pan or into a hot barbecue, because what then happens is that cold steak will cool down the plate. Whatever it is you're cooking it on, cast iron, barbecue, whatever, it'll cool the plate down, and you won't get that initial sizzle, which is what you want to get that lovely caramelization. But we'll talk a bit more about that later, because now we have what could once again literally transform how you feel about potatoes. Because potatoes, when it comes to healthy living and food, they do tend to get a bit of a bad rap, let's be honest. They are a high carb food. They nutritionally aren't the greatest. There's definitely better vegetables that we can be eating, but they taste really, really good. Let's be completely honest here. Potatoes taste fabulous. And one of the things that I have missed, probably more than any other food since I've been living this healthy lifestyle, like for the last nearly 3 years, is I used to eat a lot of potatoes, and it showed. It showed, 30 kilos heavier than I am now, about 35 kilos heavier than I am now. A lot of that was thanks to potato. So I've been doing some research for us, and had heard this wonderful thing called resistant starch. Now, it's going to be a term that you hear probably quite a lot coming up, so you're going to get really used to it. So resistant starch is, if you think of the word resistance, it's basically when you eat something, it resists being digested in our stomach and then in our small intestine, goes through to our large intestine and gets digested there, and basically gets converted into food for our healthy gut bacteria. So I'm talking about a prebiotic. So I'm going to show you guys how you can turn potatoes into a prebiotic. I know, isn't it amazing? Life is good, right? Life is good. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I've got down here. So the potatoes that I'm using today, as I'm not deep frying them, of course, which would normally have steak and chips, I'm actually going to be creating a potato salad. So yes, I'm using potatoes, and aren't they gorgeous? These are special, not special, but these are potatoes known as waxy potatoes. So you have two types of potatoes. You have a floury potato and you have a waxy potato. A floury potato is better for things like mash, whereas a waxy potato, which holds its shape when you cook it, is better for potato salad. So I'm using potato that is known as a waxy potato. Good for boiling, good for potato salads. And the key to these pretty harmless but pretty high carb potatoes, the key to turn them into a health food is, yes, we cook them, but it's in the cooling process where the digestible starches that are already in here get converted into resistant starches during that cooling process. Hence why we can have potatoes provided we cook them and then we cool them down. That is the important step that turns them into a resistant starch. Hence why, yeah, I think they are ruby reds, Becca. I'm not entirely, I can't remember. Or blues, maybe they were called, but they're pretty gorgeous. And I mean, they're not super duper waxy, but they are a nice potato for potato salad. So just look when you are in the supermarket, make sure that you pick up, or in the veggie shop, potatoes that are good for potato salads. If you're unsure, ask someone, because I'm sure they'll be able to direct you to the right type of potatoes, because you don't want a potato that mashes or falls to bits when you're wanting to make potato salad. So the secret here to a resistant starch dish is you have to cook your potatoes and then cool them down. That's why I was saying potato salad is the perfect vehicle for getting resistant starches into our body. So what I did previously is I boiled some of those. Look at the color difference. Once they go from, that's raw, that's cooked. Same potato, different day. So I boiled some of these potatoes. I think it took about 25 minutes. You notice I didn't peel them. I didn't cut them in half because they were a pretty good size. And I boiled them for about 25 minutes, just a little bit of salt in the water, because what I was looking for is I don't want to make the potatoes too soggy. if I was to pre-cut them or pre-peel them, would have too much water and would have a soggy potato salad, which is not nice. And by the way, this potato salad that I am making you guys, I was making for years as a chef, so I know it's a really decent one. So tip number one when it comes to potato salad, always boil your potatoes whole, unpeeled. You want to cook them until when you insert a little knife into them, it feels still firm, not hard, still firm, so you know it's got some texture in there. Because like I said, the last thing you want is a potato salad that is really mushy. You want that texture in there. So then taking up your little knife, just come up a bit higher, taking up your little knife, and of course you want to do this really carefully, is you just want to peel away the skins. Oh, there's a step that we have to talk about first. Cool them down. Just cool them down. Cool them down under cold running water. Let them sit in a little bit of cold running water till you can handle them. But remember, the trick to creating a healthy potato dish is that whole idea that it goes from cooked and hot to cooled, cooked and cooled. Because now we have converted those starches into resistant starches. And the health benefits of eating a resistant starch are many. This is probably going to blow your mind because I'm talking about potatoes. But a resistant starch, the potatoes are one of the best forms of resistant starch. There's other quite high carb foods like green bananas also have a lot of resistant starch in them. But potatoes have a really, really good amount. And once we have cooled them down, they actually begin to do some really awesome things to our body. So once you eat them, they resist, of course, being digested in the stomach and in the small intestine, and because there's no digestion happening there, it's going straight into your large intestine, then our gut bacteria in there basically have a field day. So there's a couple of different types of bacteria that love resistant starches and they actually thrive on it, and one of the really important ones is something called butyrate, and that's what actually goes in and helps to create a really healthy colon. So it feeds those healthy bacteria in your gut. They get a bit of a feed, which they love. You are basically eating a prebiotic. You are not spiking your insulin levels, nor are you raising your blood glucose, which you don't normally say that about potatoes, right? Normally you're like, oh, potatoes, stay away, stay away, stay away. We know what happens. You eat a potato, your insulin goes whoop, 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 your blood glucose goes all crazy. That doesn't happen when we're talking about resistant starch. So it is a prebiotic. It lowers blood sugars. It helps you to digest other food in your gut. So here's some I prepared earlier. So that's just the same potatoes. I'm just going to show you how I cut them. I always, not in my hand, that's naughty. I used to do that, but that's not a good way to teach you guys. So just on the bench, you can see, how firm it is, still absolutely cooked, but still firm to the bite. So we're going to cut them. I mean, if you really wanted chips, feel free to cut them into chips and make a potato salad out of chips. But we're making potato salad, so I'm just going to cut them into chunks. I will leave the design up to you, but just to know that what we are actually doing here is good for our health. And I can't remember the last time I sat down to something potatoey in my day and felt good about it. I always felt a little bit guilty, like, oh gosh, I'm eating potatoes, this is not good. This is actually good, this is good. Yes, we got a question. Yes, Mahi.
Can you leave the skins on them?
Can you leave the skins on them? Yeah, you can. You absolutely can leave the skins on. I just prefer my potato salad without the skins, but there is nothing stopping you. And in fact, what you're getting when you leave the skins on is you're getting a slightly healthier product as well. So I'll leave that up to you whether you want to take the skins off or not. I do find sometimes that the skin can make it a little bit bitter. That's why I like to take mine off as well, because I just find it there's a little bit of a bitterness in the cooked skin of potato when it's been boiled, so I do prefer to have it off like that, and it doesn't take too long once you get into the swing of peeling. So that's the basis to our obviously potato salad. I'm going to be showing you guys, like you could literally use that salt and pepper, lots and lots and lots of fresh herbs. Look at all these wonderful herbs that I have here. I'm going to show you guys 2 ways that we could make this, right? So I've got mint, I've got some wonderful coriander, and I've got dill. Dill and potato is a marriage made in heaven. So you could literally just break off all these fresh herbs, put them in there, salt and pepper, and then hit it with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, and you would have an amazing, simple, easy, light potato salad that would go amazing with steak. But I thought I would show you guys how I like to have it, and this is how I've been making it for so many years in a restaurant. We're going to make a very, very simple and very, very quick mayonnaise or aioli to go with it. So I've got 2 egg yolks in there. I think I made this before, and the video cut out halfway through when I was making it. So I thought it might be a really nice opportunity for me to make it for you guys again, just in case you missed it. So 2 egg yolks. This is going to be enough for about 1.5 kilos of potatoes. So, you know, a good 6 portions of potatoes. What I have in here is my little, this is my roasted garlic that I always have in my fridge. So I'm going to take a couple of cloves of roasted garlic and then just taking my knife. You don't have to add the roasted garlic. It's completely up to you. I'm just going to squish it just a little bit. Give it a bit of a cut through, a bit of a squish down, just so we've got a lovely little garlic flavor through our mayonnaise, but you don't have to use it. If you wanted to use raw garlic, you could use raw garlic, just maybe only 1, because raw garlic is quite pungent when it comes to these type of sauces. So I would, that's why I'm using roast instead, because roast is sweeter. But yeah, you can totally use raw garlic, but just make sure it's super duper fine. In fact, you're probably better off to crush it or to mince it as opposed to slice it. So a little bit of garlic goes in there. Let's add a bit of acid in the form of lemon juice, just like the juice of half a lemon. About that much goes in. See, I've got my little machine here. Start whipping. And once it sort of looks quite well, you know, mixed through, we're going to go back to our friend, the olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. And very slowly, we're going to start adding the olive oil as this machine is constantly whipping. That's the secret to making your own homemade mayonnaise or aioli, is it requires constant movement of your whisk. Otherwise, you might split the sauce that you're making. This is called making an emulsion. So keep that going. It's starting to thicken up a little bit in my bowl, and then very slowly, like literally a drip, another drip. Always moving in, incorporating the oil in. See that as I'm adding each drip, I'm stopping to make sure that my whisk is incorporating the oil rather than just adding it, you know, dumping it all in, because then you'll definitely get a split. Bit more. Bit more. You're going to add about 1/3 of a cup of olive oil, extra virgin olive oil with 2 eggs. Alright, so we've got, at the moment, we've got a really, really thick, and look at the colour, isn't it gorgeous? We've got a really thick mayonnaise, or, yeah, mayonnaise, let's call it mayonnaise. I'm going to be adding in a sprinkle of salt to it. I'm also going to be adding in a little bit of black pepper. I saw a question for black garlic. Someone asked about black garlic. So black garlic is a fermented type of garlic, tastes amazing, and does have some really amazing health benefits. Very popular in Asian cuisine, and I'm going back centuries, possibly thousands of years, they've been using it for medicinal purposes in Asian cuisine. So if you ever see black garlic, it's very, very sweet. It's like the color of my t-shirt, like literally, don't be afraid, use it in here. Oh my gosh, so amazing and really, really good for you as well. All right. Because I don't want to add too much oil, I'm not because I'm stingy, but I just don't want to add too much. I don't want to add too much oil, you know. So I'm actually going to be adding in. Where is it? 1 second. I need a little bowl. There we go. Little bowl. I'm actually just going to be adding in a little bit of water, just so it's not quite as thick. And I do find that with extra virgin olive oil, it's quite a strong taste anyway. So you can afford to water it down a bit. Make it stretch that little bit further, and you don't really want a thick, you know, cloggy sauce to go with your potatoes. You want it to just kind of lightly cover it, and that's what the water does. It just kind of breaks it up, have a bit of a taste, of course. Yes, we've got a question, Mahi.
Do you store roasted garlic cloves in oil?
Do I store mine? Yes, as you guys may have noticed, I do have my roasted garlic cloves in extra virgin olive oil.
because I usually do quite a bit at the same time, and I don't want them to go off before I have a chance to use them. This helps to preserve them. This could last me a couple of months. And then of course I have all this wonderful garlic infused extra virgin olive oil that I can use at another time. So that's how I do mine, only because I literally will do like 4, 5, maybe 6 bulbs of garlic at the same time, and then that will last. It's preserved in the extra virgin olive oil. Tastes amazing. All right, this tastes amazing too, by the way. I'm going for a double dip. Oh, it's so good. You know what, you could even add a little bit of mustard in there, you know, sugar-free Dijon mustard, just a pinch of mustard. I'm happy with that. I literally just want a light dressing that I'm going to lightly toss our potato salad into. Before I do that, you could also, and this is up to you guys, you know how you want to finish this off. You could add onion into it, but if you do add onion, make sure that you mince the onion because you don't want to taste of raw onion in there. I'm actually going to be using my pickled onions. I thought that'd be nice. Big heaped tablespoon of my pickled onions, and I'm putting into my processor just so I can break them down. That's going to go in, but there's nothing stopping you from using raw onion. But you know, we're just adding more prebiotics, which is amazing. This potato salad is going to be so incredibly healthy because we've just added pickled onions. How cool is that? So a bit of that. Let's think about some herbs, and then since I'm chopping, we might as well just, you know, throw stuff straight into the blender and let it chop, do the chopping for us. So I'm using a few stalks of the coriander because it's a good flavor. It's going to go in there. And the other one I'm going to use today, as I was saying before, dill goes really, really well with pickled onions for a start. Goes really, really well with potatoes. And if you were making salmon with this, you've got like the best dish ever. By the way, this potato salad, resistant starch potato salad, would be absolutely incredible with salmon, because this is like the flavors they just work so incredibly well together. So I've decided to add more. I don't want to stop. I love this dill. It smells so good. All right, so that is now there. We're just going to quickly put on the lid. This is going to be something that is going to transform like my barbecues in summer because I haven't had potato salad for such a long time, but new research has shown we can all have potato salad. It's exciting. So bit of a blend, just like that, nice and simple. Let's whack it all in here. I'm excited. I don't know if you can tell, but I am super excited by this prospect of, you know, what we can now have. Now, okay, but yes, we can start to have a bit of, you know, cooked potatoes. You know, even if it's roast potatoes, cooked and cooled. Remember that, cooked. It's that cooling function that is really, really important to make it a resistant starch. But, and there's always a but, I'm not giving you guys the green light to go and eat potatoes every single day, because you still have to remember it is still a high carb food. So this still is treats, but at least you know that you can have it and you can feel pretty good about it at the same time. You know, yes, it's treat food, but it's marvelous treat food. And you now know what benefits this food is doing to your body. So it's not like you're eating blind. You're eating with complete knowledge of how wonderful this all is. All right, just a nice little sprinkle of our salt and of our pepper. You could put mustard in here if you like it a little bit mustardy, and that'll be really, really delicious. But if you just had it like this, it is going to be marvelous. I'm really, really shocked that I'm showing you guys how to make potato salad in Bridget's Healthy Kitchen. That's how excited I am by all this news of resistant starches and just how good they are for our body. And they've even talked that resistant starches help to lower the pH level, so it helps to balance out your gut, which means it prevents inflammation, which, you know, inflammation leads to chronic disease and illness. So it's just pretty fantastic. All right, I'm gonna have a taste. Come up here. I'm excited. I'm so excited. Oh, here we go, potato salad. Yeah. Summer. I just thought barbecues in the backyard, or barbecues on the deck, you know, cricket being played. This is summer in a bowl. And this is what we're going to now be having. Summer in a bowl. Well, it doesn't look that good like that, but you know, there you go. I mean, if you wanted to, you could add bacon, cook a little bit of cooked bacon in here. You could add mushrooms. You can add anything you want. This is your base. go for it. All right, let's cook the steak, because I know I've been talking a lot tonight. Let's cook up our steak. In order for me to do that, you need to come over here. So come on down to my stove. First thing you want to notice about my steak, remember my steak's been out now for a good hour. Been out for a good hour, getting nice and up to room temperature. The pan that I'm using today, it's heavy, can you see? It's my cast iron pan from Aldi actually. Cost me $16. Best $16 I have ever spent. Unbelievable, had it for years. So that's gonna go onto the heat, turning the heat up high. Really important that when you are cooking your steak, you need to make sure that you have the temperature up as hot as you can get it. So of course, if you're doing this on a barbecue, get that plate super duper hot. If you're doing it in, inside, choose a heavy bottom pot pan that you have, the heaviest you have, and get that nice and hot. You actually want to see, some haze coming off it. If there's no haze, it is not up to temperature. You need to wait a little bit longer. So you want to see a haze, not a fire, just a haze. Okay, I've just got in here, I have a little bit of ghee, which is our clarified butter, very low in lactose because it's clarified, and it's also, it heats up really nicely. It doesn't burn because all the milk solids have been taken out of it. It's pure butter fat. That is going, not that much, probably only need like a quarter of a teaspoon, is going into the base of my pan. And then my steak that I have here, just to give it a little bit more, va-va-voom, so to speak. Just a little bit of sticky sauce, not much, just a little bit. On the outside, rub it in. And so we're going to combine, remember I've already salted it, don't have to add any salt when you're cooking a steak. It's already been done for you. Already done for you, which is fabulous. So I'm probably just going to cook this piece here. Because the other thing that you don't want to do when it comes to cooking your steak is you don't want to overload your pan, like put too much in at the same time, and you also don't want to overload your barbecue. So when we add too much meat to a plate or a pan, we may get into the area where we start to stew it instead of getting that lovely caramelization, which is really important. So I am just going to do one at a time. I could probably do both of those in there if I really wanted to. Do I really want to? I don't know. Nah, I'll do one. Alright, that goes in. Listen for the sizzle. Really, really important. Listen for the sizzle. The sizzle is telling us that we have a great heat that is happening in our pan. So that's really, really, really important. And if you throw your steak in and then you don't hear a sizzle, just take it out, let that pan or that barbecue plate come up to temperature. Remember, you're looking for a haze. This is really important to get that lovely caramelization on the outside of the steak. So come back over here. Have a little look what's going on over here. Not much, it's just a bit of steak cooking. But one thing that you'll notice, I won't move, one thing that you will notice is that when you start to get into the habit of salting your meat 24 hours to 48 hours before you cook it, you will notice that the outside, as what we, I suppose, have called the crust in the past, you get the colour of the outside of your steak or your pork chop or your lamb chop will actually be so much better than if you were to cook it straight from buying it from the supermarket or the butcher. So you'll notice that the colour will improve dramatically. Because what has happened over that salting period is as we've salted it, the moisture in the steak has come up to the surface and it's dried out. That's why you get that kind of, it's almost like a little bit of a dry skin looking on the top of your steak. It's because the moisture that's naturally contained in the steak has risen to the surface, because remember salt brings out moisture, and it's risen to the surface and then it's dried out because it's in paper. If it was in plastic, it'll just be nasty, by the way. So never wrap it in a plastic bag. Always in paper. Baking paper or butcher's paper are the two best ones. And that's what you're getting, is you're getting the salt is dragging out the moisture. The moisture is drying in your fridge, drying overnight or 48 hours. And so you're getting a little bit of a dry aged steak, which is great. And as the moisture is coming out, which is naturally occurring, the flavor is intensifying. That's why it tastes so good, is because I can't wait for dinner tonight. Sorry, you know when you flip it, it's like really, yeah, I got you. Here we go. See? Already. Doesn't take long, right? Doesn't take long. So you will notice that the development of the crust, the development of the color, the development of the flavor. Like I would even suggest you tell no one else that this is your little secret. You will be the steak cooking master. Everyone will be like, oh man, they cook the best steak. And you'll be like, don't know why. It's that good. It's that good. All right, how do you know if your steak's cooked? Let's talk about that for a second. How do you know if your steak is cooking the way that you like it? The way that you can tell whether your steak is cooking the way that you like it, and I call this the, what are we going to call it? Like it's like a little hand movement. So if you like your steak and you don't have a thermometer is the best way. You stick your thermometer in, and you know, if you like a medium rare steak, it's around about 56 degrees Celsius. Apologies, I don't know the Fahrenheit conversion. If you like your steak well done, like that, you know, like that's about 71 degrees Celsius for the thermometer. If you don't have a thermometer, the best way to do it is how I learned when I was a chef, is what you want to do is you want to use this part under your thumb, directly under your thumb, as a guide. So if you like your steak rare to blue, what you're feeling for when you feel your steak cooking, you touch the top of it gently, is it's about the same texture, gross way to describe it, as the skin just underneath your thumb. That for me, that texture there is very similar to a rare steak. If you like your steak medium rare, just put your finger just there and then touch it. What you'll notice is that the flesh firms up a little bit. So right now, the texture that I'm feeling there is very similar to a medium rare steak. If you like it medium, keep moving along, have a feel, that's a medium steak, about that texture. Next finger, put it along, that's about medium well, like that. And if you can get that little finger over there, if not borrow a friend's finger, if you can get over there, have a feel, that's well done, but that's well done too. I don't know if it's described to you what a well done steak is now, do I? But, oh my God. Wow. All right, there you go. Sorry, guys. Are you ready? Are you ready for the development of the crust? Take that off. Smoke out the house. I'm not putting that extractor fan on because it's so noisy. You won't be able to hear me. But are you ready for the color, the development of the color on that steak after a couple of minutes? Check that out. The smell coming off that is absolutely phenomenal. So come on down here, let's finish her off. So one of the things that also helps when it comes to steak, this is where I struggle though, is you're supposed to wait like 10 minutes let it rest before you want to eat it. Like literally this is where I struggle with that so much because I'm like, no, I'm hungry now. It's cooked. I can see it. I know that you're telling me I should wait, but I really don't want to. So, but that is definitely ideal. So I'm going to take up this beautiful plate here. One last little wipe down. We're going to start with, well, the other thing about resting steak is that if there's any other juices, they will start to come out on the plate and you won't get that sort of, you know, that leakage in your plate. And it's not blood, by the way. It is not blood as people sometimes think it is. It is, yes, a red color, but it is the moisture naturally contained in the flesh. You will find that you won't get as much leakage when you do pre-salt your steak because a lot of that moisture's already come to the surface and dried out. So I do find I don't get nearly as much, but you know, give it a bit of a rest just on the side there while you plate up your resistant starch prebiotic potato salad. It's just crazy. And as I was saying, yes, you could, you know, if you roasted potatoes and then cooled them down, you could totally eat those as well because they also will become resistant starch. You don't have to make potato salad. You could literally roast your potatoes and that you would have it that way. So a nice big of our gorgeous potato salad goes on. I cut the steak in half just so I could make it look like ta-da! Oh, hey, don't do that. Make it look really exceptional on our plate. I'm gonna finish it off just with, remember, I love dill. Love it. So good with potato salad. Little bit of dill goes on there. And just once again, for color, Don't need any salt. It's definitely got enough salt. I'm just going to put a little bit of pepper, a little bit of sprinkling of pepper on the side. And then we have our healthy pub classic example of steak, well, and potatoes, but you have a prebiotic resistant starch potato salad next to what I guarantee you wouldn't even think. Look at the color. You would not think that I bought this rump at the supermarket. I bought this at Coles. Look at that color and the flavor. You could serve that at a restaurant and people would have no idea that you bought that from the supermarket. So someone asked how much salt on the steak. I suggest that you go back and watch the beginning of this video, because you will see me actually putting the salt on. The amount of salt you add to the steak depends on the size of the steak, but it literally is just a gentle sprinkle on both sides, and you're left with this gorgeousness that is our pub classic but healthy steak and potatoes. Yes, I have a question.
How do you keep it hot by resting it?
How do you keep it hot by resting it? Well, you don't really need to rest it for that long. It only cooked for 3 or 4 minutes, so you only want to rest it for a couple of minutes. So I would literally plate up and put it straight on. I wouldn't put it in the grill or in a hot oven because it'll keep on cooking. I wouldn't put the lid down on the barbecue because it'll keep on cooking. You literally want to take it off if you really are concerned. I mean, you should ideally eat steak, a couple minutes after it's cooked. If you're going to be holding it at any temperature, it will continue to cook, because the steak here is only gotten up to about 65 degrees, and the lid of your barbecue coming down is probably sitting at 150, if not more. So definitely don't hold it in a barbecue. Don't hold it in the oven. If you must, just lightly wrap the top of it in foil, like put it onto a little wire rack and then just kind of put a little bit of a tent of foil over it. But ideally, you get all your prep done, all your sides are done. The steak is the last thing you cook, because it's like cook it, rest it, eat it. So it's optimum, right? So we're respecting this gorgeous, gorgeous cut of meat. By the way, I've got this like smoke haze in front of me. It's just like hanging in the air. Yes, we got another question.
Do you turn it only once when you're cooking it?
Yes, so there's a great question. Do you turn the steak only once? Up to you. Like, it's another one of those, I think, things that have kind of been taken on as being like the gospel when it comes to cooking steak. Not true at all. Look, you can turn it as many times as you want, especially if you've got a thick piece of steak, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to develop the color on the outside of it, right? And sometimes you do need to flip it a few times. If you're a flipper, I'm a flipper, it's okay. Don't let anyone tell you that you're doing anything wrong. Flip it as many times as you want. What you really want to be mindful of is, what is the internal temperature like? So how are you cooking it? Because if you're cooking steak for a big group, and someone goes, I will only eat mine well done, you want to make sure you serve them a well done. Well, maybe not, maybe you just I don't know, I'll leave that up to you as well. But you want to make sure that it's cooking well, and it doesn't matter how many times you flip it. Like, it really doesn't matter. What matters is the pre-salting. What matters is the hot surface that you're cooking it on. What also matters is the type of oil or fat that you're using to cook it with. I told you guys, I used ghee, which is clarified butter. It doesn't smoke and burn like normal butter. Do not use normal butter, because normal butter has butter solids, fat solids, milk solids in there, and those are the things that will burn and turn it brown and then black. But clarified butter or ghee, I'll show you the one that I use. I got this from Costco. I know it's backwards. It's a New Zealand gourmet clarified butter, ghee. You can get it really, really high and it won't burn. The other oil that you can use very successfully on your steaks is coconut oil. Once again, it can be heated really high without ruining the natural goodness of the coconut oil. And the other only oil I would suggest is avocado oil, which has the same cooking principles. You can get it really, really hot. It won't burn on you. It won't go rancid. It won't turn nasty. Avoid olive oil, especially extra virgin, because you just burn it. It's like butter, you just burn it. Avoid those. Of course, we don't cook with vegetable oils or anything like that here in Bridget's Healthy Kitchen. We stick to the healthy ones. So this is dinner. I better get going, only because I can smell it and I need to eat it now. But thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. I love sharing all this wonderful, information with you guys. It's just so good to know what we can eat, what's good for our bodies, what tastes delicious as well. So, don't forget, subscribe to my channel on YouTube. All my videos are there on YouTube if you want to watch them. Subscribe on Facebook, subscribe on Instagram, and also on Pinterest. If you want any more recipes like this, make sure that you stick along to our channels and say hi when you do. So thank you so much. It's dinner time. Take care, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow for Q&A Friday. Bye.